Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 21st Hartland Selectboard meeting. First order of business, acceptance of the October 7th minutes. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from October 7th.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you, Jim. Any discussion?
I'll just make one note that CETV was here. Included in the minutes.
Was there a state representative here?
State representative from PBR.
Oh, okay. Say I was at the meeting and didn't remember.
Budget though. Are these two here, or was it somebody different last week? Or a different person?
Oh, yes, that's what I
Reese, you guys were here at the last meeting. Both of you. You were. That was a few meetings ago that you had a replacement, right?
The 7th, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because you harassed him about his attire, the hat matching the shirt.
Okay, we're getting really deep into the minutes. Any other changes, suggestions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Next item are the warrants or the accounts payable through today, October 21st. Again, need a motion. Discussion.
I'll make the motion to accept the accounts payables through October 21st.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple of random thoughts. So Blacktop, the paving of Brownsville Road. Right?
Correct.
So 263.
Correct.
What was our total budget for the year? Was it 270?
So this was outside the budget. This was the class 2 paving grant that we got. We used the paving budget to do all the other paving.
So we got another grant?
We got a $200,000 grant from V-Trans to do the Brownsville Road, which had a 20% match on it. And we had talked about this at the beginning of the summer that we were going to need to overspend in order to get the work done.
To get the grant done. All right.
Yeah, to do the job completely. So,
all right.
So we will get, Martin and Vidar from Two Rivers are working on the requisition to the state for that $200,000.
Great. So it's, between this and the Jennyville culvert, we're closing in on $500,000.
That's, yeah, exactly. So not out of the town pocket.
That's great.
Great. That was my same question, Jim. There's $1,000 to grade the walking path. I thought we just did the walking path.
It had become overgrown in multiple sections, especially by the community garden, and then in the far corner, the weeds had just kind of overgrown. So we sprayed it with whatever they had in the sprayer there. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then Cody came and turned it so that it was fresh gravel. It's a yearly fill.
Okay, so it's not adding gravel, it's just.
There was just there was no added, there was no material added.
Okay. And the library cleaning, did we ever establish a new contract with someone?
I don't believe so. I think we're still using the same cleaner, but we haven't had the library here.
Yeah.
Right, same cleaner.
We're sticking with the cleaners. We had some discussions about performance and some of the issues we were having, and those have been totally cleaned up. So we're sticking with them, and it's like a really good deal, actually.
Good. Thank you, Tracy.
What's the D&D subcontract upon
For Draper.
Draper Ellison?
This is additional help up doing that culvert. We did that culvert, and you'll see all the invoices for the Draper Road culvert. They had to use quite a few blocks to make it safe on either end of the culvert there. So that's what that is.
Yeah, it was a combination of concrete blocks as well as stone.
Yeah.
Do you know when the guardrail is going to go in there?
So this year, hopefully. The problem is that guardrail, you can only get guardrail in Essex. It's the only place to get guardrail in the state. So it requires a trip up to Essex. So we try to do that at one shot as opposed to making multiple trips per season.
It's like Lebanon, Claremont, no.
The state, by my understanding, the state contract for guardrail is out of this place in Essex. So,
Oh, is the state funding it?
no, but like state purchase price. It's the same thing we ran into on the Jennigo culvert. Why that guardrail got installed a little bit later. Kurt Pulse was just waiting to make a single trip up there.
And the Sunny project, that 2968 is that the latest bill?
Where
On
is this?
page 6?
Stitchel Page and Fletcher?
No, she Furlong.
Oh, Quechee Furlong. Yep, that's the latest bill that we have from Quechee Furlong. That is again related to the Supreme Court appeal.
And we're waiting for another $2,000 bill that they didn't send us in time.
Right. So we have.
So we're going to be over their $5,000.
We're going to be just under their $5,000. We will have spent, by the time we pay that second invoice, about $4,600 of their $5,000 professional service budget.
Any other questions? All in favor of accepting the warrants for today, say aye.
All right.
Chris, you okay?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Adjustments to the agenda. I would like to table under old business the Three Corners project wrap-up. There's a couple of things that still need to be done, and also the person that was requesting that is not here this evening. And then we'll, under new business, we'll move the library discussion up to number 1 and slide the budget and Two Rivers board appointment afterwards. Is everyone comfortable?
Yeah, and we'll add an executive session at the end.
Thank you. I was wondering what this cryptic note was I had.
So I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda as stated.
I'll second it. That executive session should just be a discussion.
Yeah, discussion.
Okay.
And a quick vote. We're all, make sure we're all in agreement. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Are there any public comments? Is there anyone online?
There's no comments online.
Okay. It's a little scary when we run around here. John, do you want to lead us through the Quechee Road discussion, which was, as folks know, we hired Everett Hammond, who was an engineer, to review the pathways discussion and look at strategies for us to sort of move forward with.
So real quick, Everett was already under contract to look at paved roads to do the RSMS study, which we anticipate coming in November. Which gives us a kind of a looking at the road, all the paved roads in town, giving us a plan for how we should maintain them. As a part of that, I asked Everett to review the work that Pathways had completed. which was very informative and very in-depth. So this is just like supplemental to what Pathways had completed. So in your packet, you had this email that I received from Everett. Of particular notes is I want to bring your attention to option number 1 on the back. He provides 3 options. Because if you recall the study from Pathways for the 6.4 miles of the Quechee Road in Hartland, they had broken it down into 3 sections, basically like good, okay, and really needs to be completely redone. And the total price tag on that was $6.4 million to do it all at once. There was a suite of options within there. You know, we could do a little bit here and a little bit there, but what Everett did was review the pathways report and provide us with a few more options to look at. And Everett and I met last week to talk about this, to go over his report. And if you look at it, in most of the road sections, Everett is of the opinion, and just Everett is the former DPW director in the town of Rockingham, has done work for other municipalities, you know, up and down the Upper Valley here. So this is in his wheelhouse, that we could potentially just resurface, so mill and resurface the road, much like we did to Brownsville this year. And then he would like to chip seal that as well. And Everett anticipates that would get us 12 to 15 years of life, which gives the town time to budget and plan for the full kind of road repair that's needed for most of the road.
But a chip and reseal of a road portion that's sunk 12 inches in places is not going to correct.
So in addition to the chip and reseal, we would also need to, you know, own some of the maintenance that we've neglected for a long time up and down the road.
You have a road that's seriously deteriorated in some sections.
Right.
I'm struggling to see how a chip and reseal is going to keep that piece of road intact for 10 years.
I agree with Jim. I mean, the work that we've done when we've milled it, some of those sections which are just done within the last 2 or 3 years are coming apart already.
Right. Because we hadn't done the corresponding like drainage work to keep the water off the road. This is not a long-term solution. This is a medium-term solution that will buy us the time to plan.
Yeah, I do understand what you're
Yeah.
But I think it's a medium-term solution in some sections and a really short-term solution in others.
Sure. Right. There are sections that are, you know, essentially beyond repair at this point. I'm relying on Everett as a professional engineer who has done this work in the past to you know, I'm looking at him as the expert here. Yeah. So there is, you know, obviously this is not within the road budget. You know, this would be $1.5 million. But if $1.5 million gets us 10 to 15 years, Everett said 12 to 15, you know, that gives us plenty of time to prepare for, you know, what would be probably a significant bond to do the repair.
So can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I would suggest we run this theory by Pathways.
Sure.
And get their feedback, because they did all the core samples and all the analysis and everything else.
Sure.
It's great to, you know, buy some time, maybe save us some money, but I'm not sure it's just, I'm having trouble connecting with it.
So if you read, so option 2, then I highlighted option 1, but there were 3 options. And he does call out those sections that I think you're referencing that are really bad, right?
It's like a mile.
Right.
Road.
The problem with that, for discussion purposes, is that the cost to do that kind of medium-term solution doubles. So we go from a $1.5 million project to a $3 million project. Yeah. So it's what can we afford to do immediately that's going to buy us the time to get us to the full solution. We're at the lowest cost, right? We need to do a good and decent job without a $6 million bond.
I get it. But I feel like with, not this select board, but a prior select board probably went down that exact same road and we are where we are.
Potentially, I can't speak
It's
for
a
it.
low cost solution to get the thing repaved and it's still done.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite possibly right. I would just argue that we are also, this is step one.
Right.
Knowing that step two is, we need to be planning for step two.
But
Yeah,
it's $1.5 million now, and then another 3 later becomes 4.5.
correct.
So I'm not sure that $1.5 million is money well spent.
Understood.
Is the $1.5 million include the town workers digging swales along the side of the road on the uphill side?
Correct.
So that we can try to mediate the
Right.
drainage issues that we're having?
Yes.
Because that's what's causing all the damage to the road, because it's washing the substrates out.
Right.
Okay, so if that's taken care of, and then we go ahead and fix the tar issue and the road issue, or was that all part of the $6 million?
So the $6 million is only road, where we still
Okay.
need to do the maintenance, kind of the ongoing maintenance.
In my mind, the benefit to doing what you just brought up would be that we could make sure that the ground is perking properly under the road all the way through there and dig the drainage swells out, because that's what's causing the problem. Then let's see if it slows the damage down. Then if the road at some point when we've procured enough money to fix the road properly, do it then.
Right.
So I'm not totally against the concept of,
I think we need to be clear that at our current rate of $260,000 per year of paving, we never have enough money to pay the Quechee
We'll
road.
never have enough money, period. It's gonna have to be bond.
Right, it's gonna have to be
It's probably gonna have to be $3 million. And it's probably over payback over multiple years, but the project is probably gonna be, they call them options 1 through 4.
Right.
In pathways, they're not options, they're,
Right.
Yes. Levels of the work. 4 being the one that's most important to do first.
Right.
I think you gotta do 4, all the 4 sections, then come back and do all the 3 sections. Then but somebody who's never paved a road before, then you're in a position where you can maintain the road, and the ones and the 2s are not gonna be that expensive. Yeah.
So we can run this by pathways, because I think, again, never did this in he talked with Scott at pathways. So just, what I would hope to avoid is a 10-year construction project on the Quechee Road.
I agree.
Right. And if we do this section this year and that section in a few years, and maybe we chip and seal the road, because some of these sections are going to be like, they're full rebuilds, which is the road is closed for weeks at a time, potentially. I would, would be in an ideal world, we can minimize the traffic disruptions because it's a heavily used, inter-town connector. So all these things we have to, come to an agreement on. Obviously, it's late October, so we have time to figure it out.
I'm with you. I totally understand everything you're worried about. But I think you could close that road to everything except local traffic. And they can come down Route 12 and damage that, and the state can fix it. Yeah.
John, do you know what is referring to by this photograph every 0.2 mile every 2 years to do an evaluation? And then I assume that is going to identify which areas to work on. This is option 1.
Right. So just in meeting with him, it's clear that this isn't if we did option 1, for example, it's not a fix and forget it for the next 12 years. We need to keep an eye on it. And we can then, if we do the photographs like he's recommending, we have a visual log of where the road is maybe subsiding or where it's starting to, crack more often or faster than in other sections. It just gives us that reference point for that reference information for when we do the full repair.
But I think Trace's point is good. It's almost, wasted time to do any repair until it fix the branch, right? That's like,
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
first step, the class 4 people, not class 4, I can't find the right word, option is not the right word.
Right.
The number 4 sections are the next most important. I think that's where you're most likely to have an accident because the road is in such bad shape.
And it's in very bad shape. I mean, I just, every time the weather is bad, I just worry about someone kind of losing it, coming across the road at me with the tar trucks on. I think the summary that he presents, the first 5 or 6 items, it's fine. I, like others, don't totally agree with the options. So I think let's get the pathways. Sure. And I'm not a road engineer any more than anyone at this table, but we have to be fiscally prudent and at the same time get that road to be safe.
Yeah. Just on the fiscally prudent side, just so we're clear, our contract with Pathways is over. So any new work that we ask them to review and look at, we should anticipate a bill from Pathways for. I mean, again, a couple hours of time.
Yeah, time and materials for a couple hours, answer your question.
Okay.
And then we're going to dive into the budget, a few agenda items to understand where we are with what Katie we will tackle.
So I would like to keep the Quechee Road on the agenda because under old business, so we don't lose sight of the fact that we do need to take action on it. We have a winter to plan, but we need to keep it at the forefront.
And if we do a bond, you're gonna have to go up to bond.
Correct.
I mean, even to do $1.5 million.
Correct. We did
Here, we need to go to bond.
for what it's worth, we did run a $1.5 million bond number over 10 years. Because again, we don't want to pay for something that we're gonna beyond its useful life. So
Yeah, we also need to keep our eye on what the school budget is, what the state's doing with the school budgets. So we can't.
Yeah, and I don't want to
introduce.
I don't want to go into the budget discussion now, but we can talk about it again.
Yeah.
But we have obligations that we need to do and to maintain roads, bridges, things like that. I fully appreciate that school taxes went up significantly and the tax rate went up significantly, but that does not mean, in my opinion, that we can not take care of our own problems here.
I'm not disputing that.
Yeah. Just want to be clear.
It's still just.
Yes, it's right. I appreciate it.
My own personal shock when I open the envelope and sort of say, where's the money coming from?
Yes.
Okay, any other? This is a hard one, I don't know.
It's just for the road, and you just said that we got a grant for the Hartland Brownsville Road. How much was that?
$200,000.
Okay.
We could anticipate getting another class. It's a class 2 roadways grant. So the only roads we could use now are the Brownsville Road and the Quechee Road. There are in the VIII district, there's a handful of towns, let's say 20 towns. Everybody gets a shot at the grant every handful of years. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be this year that we would get it. It would, we could potentially raise our hand again in 27 or 28 and anticipate that money. And $200,000 is great, but doesn't go very far.
You're saying the pool, is there a limit for each town or?
The maximum grant that you can get is $200,000.
And the grant and the help to get the grant from the group that was here.
We did the Brownsville Road grant application. I did it in coordination with the VIII district staff. It's relatively straightforward. We have the background information to apply for the grant. Our term just won't be up. Our term, if you will, won't be up again for a handful of years.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's the group that we had coming here?
Anything else on that?
No.
I think it was 2 rivers.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have guests this evening. Warren and Tracy Joy from the library to lead us in a discussion of library town, it's right.
Tracy's a special guest. I did not know whether she was coming tonight, so it's good to have her. I'm Becca Warren. I'm the chair of the Library Board of Trustees right now. And
Tracy Joy, and I'm the director of the library.
Welcome with you.
thank you. I was preparing a PowerPoint and then I learned late in the morning that we don't do that here, which I was really happy to learn because I hate them. So this is what I made a handout of what I've been preparing. And I'm just going to go through some just info about the library. This came up to my mind to come and talk to you all because at the library, we're working on our part of the town budget and just thinking about having some really more contact with the select board through Phil and having John here. Just thought this is a great time for us to come and make sure you guys know what's happening at the library and just talk a little bit about how the library is situated within the town. I'm about to term out, which means I've been on the board for 5.5 years, and it's taken me this long to understand, to feel like, oh, I really understand what's going on between in having a municipal library. So I thought it might be useful just to come and go over a few things, and some of it's about how we operate, and some of it's fun news about what's going on at the library, and then if you all have questions, I'm happy to answer them, and Tracy's too. Sound good?
I only have one question. How come I didn't know about Oreo cookie tasting until today?
Because you didn't read the library newsletter. That would be the main reason, I think.
Or you haven't been to the library.
Well,
All of our flyers are posted.
I stopped reading signs like a decade ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I will definitely notify Michelle next time.
So the library has a mission statement, which is at the top of this handout for you guys. We're a focal point of the community, a gathering place for all people, and we provide free access to materials, resources, and programs for the education, recreational, and informational needs of the community. And the board is taking this mission statement super seriously. Like I work at nonprofits, and there's a lot of mission statements, and I feel like this is the one that I'm really paying a lot of attention to, and our library staff is really fulfilling, and it's been super exciting. And one thing, I always quote Phil, who said a couple months ago, like, well, yeah, we'll just keep working to make this the best library in Vermont. And this is really how we see our libraries, just being a beacon of excellence in librarianship. And in Vermont, we have 2 types of libraries, and we are the type that is a municipal library. So we're affiliated with the town, but we're overseen by an elected board of trustees. So it's a funny, like a Venn diagram maybe, between the town itself and the library itself, where we're a town institution, our personnel, our staff, town personnel, but we operate independently in many ways because myself and my fellow trustees oversee staff. You can see here where our general powers. So we have general oversight of operations. We set policies for the librarians to implement and achieve. So like you all, I'm assuming I don't attend a lot of select board meetings. We don't have to deal with paving questions, but we do talk a lot about policy, and that can range from, our dogs allowed on the porch was a policy we were grappling with when I first came on to the trustees. But we also have a responsibility to set personnel policy that works for our staff and works for the library. And until you all, I think, did just a massive and wonderful overhaul of the town personnel policy in the past year. But prior to that, our policy was in many ways more robust for our staff. And so now we're in a process of responding to that, reviewing what you all have done for the town staff. And so we have a kind of like overlapping and internested set of policies there. We set and then spend the budget and oversee that aspect of the library. But the library budget, because we're a municipal library, is within the town budget. So as you guys know, you'll see it on what would you call that? What do you call the warrant at this point even? Anyway, the town budget, you'll see it on the stuff that you're getting. But we prepared that with Tracy, and it'll come your way. We select and evaluate the librarian. So just as with most boards that oversee something, we oversee the director and she's overseeing the rest of her personnel. We assist the librarians as we're able as volunteers. And then we prepare and revise written plans for the long-term future of the library. So we're working on a strategic plan. Typically, we do a 5-year strategic plan, and that our last one ran out in 2020. For perhaps obvious reasons, we were focused on other things and were not able to start strategic planning again until this year. We had not only the pandemic, but then a lot of staff turnover, and wanted to wait until our new director was comfortable, had been in the job for a few months before we started strategic planning. So I don't know if any of you were able to participate in the strategic planning survey that we did this summer. So, we have a strategic planning committee made of town residents, and we made some questions that we wanted to know. What did the town think about library services, personnel, and the building? And the committee went around and talked to as many different folks around town as we could, and there was a digital survey, it was at the library. So we are pulling that together across the fall, which has been an exciting and fun project. And one of the things that's been really great about doing a strategic plan and really basing it on community input is just mostly having extremely positive feedback about the library, and people just very excited to be back in the building, excited to come in and access all the different services. And the questions we were asking were related to how can the library really be a gathering place for everybody in Hartland? And generally people were a little bit flummoxed. And aside from specific things like, I wish there was more XYZ specific thing that I'm really interested in, like what someone might say, I really want more books on philosophy, because I love philosophy, for example. But other than that, generally everyone was like, I can't really think of much because everything's going really well. And so that was very heartening to know that we as a board are moving in a good direction and supporting the staff to offer a library that is really suited to our needs as a town. It's been really fun. So I just wanted to bring also, as part of this, just like some programming snapshot. So a lot of what the librarians are doing, and Tracy can speak more to this, is, you know, as we have in our mission, we want to be a gathering place for the community and also provide for the informational needs of the community, right? And traditionally, I think, you know, for me as a kid growing up in Vermont, I was really focused on the books at the library. And I still have that idea of a traditional library where it's mostly books, 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 but it's also so much more than that, right? It's a place where we gather as a community. Our community meeting room is really an amazing space that's utilized by a lot of different groups in the town and outside of town. So there's some of this youth programming is focused on reading. So we have, I think there's 60 children who have participated or are currently participating in 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. So that's all children who have not yet entered kindergarten. And that program was started by Tracy when she joined the staff as the youth librarian. So it's been like 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know how long it was dormant for, part of it, you know.
Yeah.
I think it might have, but anyway, yeah, I rebooted it as the
Yeah, so it's just really fun. And when you go in the library, you can see all the kids get to write their names on paper and have it be in public. So, and there's regular play groups and story times and co-op nursery weekly visits and all these pieces that happen very regularly for kids to come in the library and have the library be a place where they're comfortable, where they're hanging out, and there's resources they need, whether it's books or research or just a social place. There's up on the second floor, there's a nook where until recently the Historic Society had a case. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the second floor of the library, and there's a few chairs, and it's a section of the library that's like the Vermont section. So until some recent projects are rearranging kind of what's up there, but I would not say it's the part of the library you would say is like the most exciting place to go when you're 15.
But that is where reports to date back quite a while.
Yes.
You can see that our budget in 1946 is like $3,000.
Yes, and apparently this is where all the teenagers go to hang out. So they're just like hanging out. So it's, I don't know, it's pretty great. And then, let's flip over, and I'm just going to talk about the other programming, and then I want to make a point about numbers. So if Reese, our community engagement librarian, shared what the top attended library events for fiscal year 23 were, so this must have been like the most recent year that he had. So out of these that you can see on this page, Poetry Fest, Senior Cafe, Fireside Stories, the play group, and the pizza party. So most of these programs that were the most popular are in coordination with another town organization, entity, club. So the Fireside Stories, if I'm remembering correctly, was with Hartland Trails, like a bonfire and stories over somewhere on the trails, I'm assuming by the gravel pit. So that is a huge emphasis that we have as a board and the librarians have to just continue to partner with town groups and individuals. And a lot of the most popular programming, as you can see here, is either in collaboration with town groups and or like a local expert or speaker or author. So recently my friend Sarah was talking about her book, and I believe 35 people came, right? So she's my neighbor friend. So that's a big part of what's happening for the library. And by the numbers, so we have, as of February, which was the latest I had access to these numbers while I was working on this over the weekend, we have almost 1,400 library card holders. We'll come back to talking about that in a minute. There's been a big focus on bringing volunteers back to the library after the pandemic was over, and that has been an incredibly successful program. So when I was looking through the month by month, generally there's like 12 or 14 people volunteering every month, almost 400 volunteer hours. And these are tasks that are like reshelving books. My son volunteered for a while. He did some decor. Right? So there's a kind of a range of really great ways to be in the library and be assisting. On the right where it says August statistics, so Eric, who is our technical services, circulation librarian, keeps track of monthly statistics. So I'm not going to dive right into these, but basically the general trend is that everything is increasing. So visits to the library, things being circulated out of our 25,000 things that we have that can be circulated. One thing that is going down that's purposeful is the interlibrary loans. So we had a very generous interlibrary loan policy that's like, recently I wanted a book, but Harlan doesn't have it. So I asked for it to be gotten from somewhere else in Vermont, that it can be gotten, which it could be like from another public library or from like research institutions, I think. Is that right?
Academic libraries as well. And out of state.
We've been purposely trying to reduce the amount of activity on that because it's quite time consuming. So it's quite expensive. So I just want to segue into talking about the budget, which originally brought me to invite myself to join you guys. We start budgeting, this year we started in August, and thinking about the line items on the library budget and thinking about bringing down costs. And I wanted to just share with you this chart based on the fiscal year 25 budget down here to give you an idea of like what's on our minds as we're approaching the budgeting process for the library. So sadly, it looks like this went over 2 pages, but that fiscal year is our current one. Yeah, our current one. So we have the library budget, with the exception of a few line items that are in a separate part of the town budget. The library's budget that's in the kind of big chunk for the operations of the library this year is $289,000. And out of that, benefits, which we all know are out of our control, 32% of the budget was benefits. And out of wages, about half of the budget is wages. So when we are looking at, and I believe it was this past, the budget we're in right now, we did not do any wage increases separate from the mandated COLA that, or whatever, the agreed upon town COLA that we all did over the past 2 fiscal years, right, where we did a 6+% COLA increase for town staff. So then these parts of the budget, the wages and the benefits, were not in our control as a board. And we're trying to stay, just want you all to know, really fiscally conservative. We want our budget to come in at the increase that in general the town is trying to come in at. If that makes sense, our section of the budget. So it means that we're with the non-personnel items, and those are things like copier fees, but also buying books and all those pieces. We're very conservative and very creative. So I think our books budget, $7,000 for adult books or something. So the way that we're conservative and then creative with that is, keeping that number small and then working with trying to get small amounts of grant funding that are available from private foundations or state grants, like $500,000, $1,000 grants, and then really a ton of support from the Friends of the Library. So they're like, the library has the board, we have the staff, and then we have the Friends. And the Friends are their own thing. They're not related to the board in any kind of governmental way, and they do our most wonderful book sale. And from those profits, they support like needs of the town library that are out of the town budget. And they're amazing and an incredible resource. It's been really fun. So that's the kind of thing we're thinking about when we're thinking about the budget. And I just wanted to quickly go through what the current projects are that were top of mind when I was writing this list. So you all know that we've done work on the library building in terms of studying. There was an accessibility study that we did at the building. Are you familiar with this? We had,
Two Rivers assisted us with.
I'm forgetting the word. The person who comes and assesses. The assessor came and looked at the ADA accessibility of the library. And we've also had recently in association with the MERP grant. If I use the acronym, is that familiar?
Yep. The
Municipal Energy Resiliency Program. An energy audit of the building. And these were all related to potential funds that have that might have come our way or might still come our way from ARPA monies, I believe. It's good out of the IRA. I don't remember which one. So we've done a lot of investigation recently about the building and improvements that need to be made. The building's 25 years old as of 2025. So the library's been around since 1895, but only in this building since whatever that is, 2000. So there are a lot of parts of the library that are at the end of their life. So one part that you all have probably talked about, but maybe not, is the HVAC system. So the hope with the MERP grant is that the MERP funding will assist us in replacing the HVAC system, which is literally held together with duct tape in some areas, I do believe, or something that looks like duct tape, maybe it's just electrical vent tape. So we've been really excited to be working with Phil and John on these projects and looking more at the building, thinking more long-term about what are the opportunities that we have with federal funding. So we did not receive the library capital grants that were given through the state from the Treasury Department, the Federal Treasury Department. Did not receive those grants, which now that we know more about the libraries that did receive them, we do not feel resentful. There are some libraries that did not have running water. So we feel you first, it feels good. Then I believe we'll know about the MERP grant this week, according to Harry Pellicutter.
Good.
I think the date on the email I saw said we would know by the 25th of October.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
And then we've been told by the Department of Libraries, or Vermont Department of Libraries, that there is another grant opportunity that'll come up in 2025 through HUD. We don't know anything about it. Two Rivers would support us with that grant application as well, as far as we know. I've already told you about our strategic planning. We're working on budgeting. Next year is the 25th anniversary of the building, so hopefully we'll have some fun parties and really celebrate not only just how long we've been in the building, but I've always heard since coming on the board that the folks who had the vision to move the library into that building from the locations where it had been previously really just through their own force of will raised, I think, $200,000 to get the library into that building. And so really celebrating those founders' application. I already mentioned we're working on the personnel policies to sort of piggyback on the work that you all did for town personnel policies. And I put the book series labeling on here because I just wanted to highlight that the librarians are working all the time to increase the usability of the library resources. And as someone who has, over the past few years, been reading a lot of murder mysteries, I will go to the Sue Grafton section. It's very, oh no, she's easy to tell because she uses the alphabet. You want to read a series of something, very hard to know which one is third. And so they're working on putting numbers on the spines for easy series use. So just keep an eye out. They're already getting some excited feedback about it, I believe.
Yes, lots of positive feedback already from the Louise Penny readers.
Right, great example.
Mhm.
So, and then the final thing I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up about that also relates to fiscal prudence is the card policy. So the libraries never really had a card policy. And the card policy is like who can be a patron, who can have a card, who can take out objects. And the policy was always anyone can have a card. And that has its pros, right? Like it's extremely welcoming and equitable. And I think, so we were looking at really deeply at this card policy. Did we want to adopt one? We were one of the very few libraries in the state that had virtually no card policy. So the board recently has adopted a card policy. And this will go into effect in March. And what it will mean is that in order to have a library card for free, you will need to be a resident of Hartland or a landowner, a property owner in Hartland.
Pay
So,
taxes.
right. So what this will mean is free library cards at Hartland and all the services associated with those library cards, which are incredible and diverse and cost some money. They will now be freely available only to folks who are paying taxes to the town. And then folks who are not paying taxes in town, there's a couple options that remain for folks to access library services. So one is we're part of the consortium of 14 towns in the Upper Valley that share services. So as Hartland library card holder myself, I can just sort of opt into the one card system it's called, and then I can go to Norwich and take out whatever book I want, or I can go to Hartford. I live closer to the Quechee Library, so I often take out stuff there. So free library card if you are a taxpayer in Hartland, a Hartland employee, a school employee, there's sort of some details. You got resident, like a renter. And then if you adore the library so much and you don't live in a one-card town and you want all the services, we'll have a fee-based card. So that's coming, and it's a big change. So I just wanted to make sure you all
So is
are aware of it.
that the same policy of a 14?
I think all libraries have slightly different policies, but I would say it's similar to, it's a pretty typical policy.
So we've done a lot of research on this. We've been sort of looking at this for about a year, I would say, and talking to a lot of other directors and board members, and you know, basically came up with a fair solution that makes a lot of sense. There are some libraries who do offer cards to everybody but it's becoming so expensive to even our book orders, for example, or our ILL courier system is so expensive, and just the prices have gone up for everything, as everybody knows. So we've been looking at options, and this seems like a fair option. And, quite frankly, something that's, quite overdue, I would say. In theory, I love the theory of anyone can get a library card, but there have been so many changes financially in the world, so.
But do you have a lot of non-residents
We do.
that have cards? But are not part of the 14 towns?
Right, and
They
when
may
you
be
have,
part of the 14 towns. But there's a difference in services. is
right,
what
the
you're about to
difference
say.
in services are, when you have a Hartland card, you have access, you can get, do your ILLs through Hartland. You can access Canopy, you can access
Which is
Libby,
free books online.
yeah.
So translating, I'm the translator.
Libby and Palace are the online areas where we can get books and audiobooks and all this stuff. So, it does add up. And basically people are sort of footing that bill for users. And if you have a one card, you can borrow books, but you don't get those other services. That's the difference.
Will non-residents be grandfathered in, or will it start fresh? Okay.
And I will say, maybe you already noticed that Martin did need to add a line for potential income for this reason, because we'll have a fee-based opt-in if folks want to buy a card, which is pretty typical for a library.
And I've done a lot of research on how people could pay for certain things, including our wonderful tote bags. And I think we're gonna go with the Square. So that's an option. People can pay by credit card if they want.
Or an Apple Wallet. If you have the Square, you can do that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I've reached the end of my intended remarks. So I'm just so happy to answer any questions, and because Tracy's here, we can answer really detailed questions, such as why didn't I hear about the cookie party?
Curiosity one, you answered one of my questions about the relationship of the board to the Friends of the Library, and you said those are, it's a distinct organization that really does fundraising for you. But the second part is, what's your relationship to the library at the elementary school? Or raise the rating?
Yes, well, just because of the moment at which you're asking this question, Tina Skian, who's the librarian at Hartland Elementary,
Who's now on your board?
is now on the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were really excited that she was willing to and interested in running, and of course was voted in by landslide. And so, but I would say generally the elementary school library is treated as a community partner. So one of the really exciting collaborations that has been happening for a few years now is that in the spring, the elementary school and the library work it out and have every single elementary school student come to the library in one day. So the grades come in sort of staggered shifts.
Field trip.
Oh, okay, great.
And they get a tour, and they go home with a library card form. Is that right?
Yeah, we're sort of changing it up where we want all registered students to be able to get a library card when they start school. So we're working with Tina on that.
I think so. I would describe it from the outside as a very close relationship.
Great.
Even prior to Tina being voted.
I have another question. As we talk about the budget later this evening, we are really being pressured by equity and wages. And I'm wondering how you determine wage increases in the current budget that we're talking about, the 289.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I will say that it depends year to year. So about, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we did a big project to try to figure out what the wage should be for the librarians, and really, I think probably like you all, really looking at how can we be competitive in the market for these highly trained professional individuals, or people who are really good at real work, or whatever it might be. And at that time, we looked really into all the town wages and the Department of Libraries, and then I think the League of Cities and Towns put out wage reports. And at that point, we learned that out of the 4 library staff, 3 of them were the lowest paid staff in town. And we're really being paid at a wage that we felt was not exceptional. I don't know how to say it in any other way. So we did some work to try to raise those wages at that time. And since then, we felt, I think, more like we need to keep wages rising. We were very happy about the COLA increases that have occurred over the past couple of years that the town has been saying it wants to adopt. But I think, frankly, I would welcome that as a conversation with all of you in terms of where we're looking at with pay equity for the library staff, because they're town staff, and I think in part maybe because of not communicating with you all on this question, we're a little at sea in terms of what the where to put ourselves in regards to the full town budget and wages. I don't know if I articulated that clearly. I would say, like, we want our staff to be paid at the level that they deserve. I think it's really important to serve the town by retaining excellent staff, and it's just something we would love to talk with you all about and think about. How are you thinking about pay equity? How are you thinking about pay rises? And however the way to continue that conversation is, I know all the board would be super excited to figure out a pathway forward together as a select board and a library board together.
I have a question about one quick question about the policy, the fee-based card.
Yeah.
Is there is there a need-based component to it? If I live out of town, but have been frequenting the Hartland Library, but whatever the fee may be is cost prohibitive, is there a scholarship or something along those lines?
There's I think the way we put it, and I see Tracy's nodding, is the fee can be adjusted at the discretion of the director. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's where we're
Perfect.
Yeah.
But we really want to encourage people to get a library card at their home library and get into that one card, and then they can, the other part about it that's tricky is, like, we want to continue to be this warm and welcoming space, and of course, it's public, it's a public building, people are welcome to come, everyone's still welcome to come, so it's just this one adjustment in a card policy.
Yeah.
And the policy's been passed, so it's in our minutes, and then I'm also happy to share it with you specifically, because there are a lot of little bits of things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Right, and just to say, if you want to know more about the library, including free cookies, then the trick is to get on the library newsletter.
Electronics.
I get confused when you say cookies. I think about on the computer cookies.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'm not close or anything.
Well, if you do need technology help, you can also come to the library and get a system.
These cookies are more fun than.
Excellent. Can you help him?
Oh, there's no help for me.
You can't help
Just
it.
for actual cookies.
We just like them to be able to read his town email once in a while. We could give them a raise first before they try that.
Okay.
Great, thanks for making time for us, and I'll look forward just to hearing how we can collaborate on staff salary equities.
Okay.
And everyone's welcome to the board meeting, and you're welcome also to make an appointment with me.
When does your board meet?
On the third Tuesday of every month. Except in November at some different time because we
Thursday.
couldn't meet that week.
Yeah.
We're on the town calendar.
Yeah, I think, we're working on something.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks.
Well explained.
Yeah.
thanks for
Very
having
much.
us.
Memo about this. Very interesting. Got the memo about
Moving on to, the appointment to the Two Rivers, board. I'm not familiar with which board this is within Two Rivers.
Two Rivers has a board of commissioners for Two Rivers. Quechee Region Planning Commission has a board. Charles Jeffries was the Hartland Town representative for a long time, but recently resigned from both their board and the Hartland Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, and you'll see two pieces of information in your packet. The second one is a letter from the Hartland Planning Commission chair. The first one is an application from Steve Cohn to be the appointee to the Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission board. It's relatively straightforward. I think so. Just if there are any questions, I can answer them. Other than that, it would just be a motion in a second.
Okay.
Is it a board or is it just?
It's a board.
It is a board.
It's a board.
Right, then I can make a motion to appoint Steve Cohn from the Planning Commission to the Two Rivers Quechee RC Regional Commission Board.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Thank you, Steve Cohn, for being willing to serve. Okay. We've gotten everything else done. Now it's time to dive into the fiscal 26 budget discussion.
Great. So what you have, and Martin is here as well, and can come to the front and be a part of the conversation. This is the budget that includes the numbers from the library, the rec center, and the highway department. They fill out their own budgets, and we include all that information. This also shows an across-the-board 4% increase. At the time that the budget was developed, it's August, correct, Martin? Where we pulled that number. So the Northeast Regional
September.
In September, inflation in the Northeast region was 3.4%. So that is, we've moved that to 4% because some of the costs we know, some of the costs are unknown still. We don't know how much gravel is going to be, for example.
What that, right, is used or has been used for salaries, not for other categories.
So it's salaries, but it also, if you look at that number, it's also like food costs and things along those lines. So we use it for salary, but it is an apt number it is a fair number to use to anticipate the increasing cost of other goods as well. So again, this is budget number one. We fully expect there to be revisions from here. And as opposed to going through it line by line, which.
So it was 3.4.
3.4. And that's the number that's been used for salary increases in the past couple of years. Or non-merit based salary increases over the past couple of years. You can see the number on the right, the right-hand column, the percent change. There was only a few kind of significant changes to the budget, and they happen to both be in the highway department. I should say significant changes to the budget outside of the cost of health insurance, which we can come back to. So I don't know if we want to jump to the highway budget or you want to talk about the the budget as we go through it.
Well, the budget as a whole, you have down as a 11.5% increase.
Right, because again, there was a couple of numbers in the highway budget that went up somewhat dramatically. Well beyond the 4% increase.
Right, well, yeah, so you got a big ticket item in administration, a big ticket item in rec center.
Right.
Big ticket item in building and grounds.
So the buildings and grounds was actually because we moved that, Rob got moved into administration, like his labor just got shifted out of the highway and into
Building and grounds or into administration?
Buildings and grounds.
out of the highway into buildings and grounds, which was previously just the map. And then the big ticket increases in administration is health insurance. It's the cost of health insurance. So 14%, Mark, is that the health insurance increase that we're
Yes,
anticipating?
14%. MVP is going up 14% this year.
Are we being prudent to essentially have $20,000 in the ordinance and planning? Well,
So we kept it in there. We've talked about it kind of in passing since I started. There's a need at this point for additional town capacity, whether it's a 20-hour-a-week ordinance administrator or some other component, but there's a need for that for additional staff. So that's why we kept it in there, to keep it as an option.
I'm just wondering if it's too low.
Well, I mean, it's been in there and not been filled, so I don't know that,
Right.
it would be nice to have somebody to help out, but I think we have there's a lot of moving pieces, and until we have some clarity on all those moving pieces, we can't make a determination one way or the other.
Okay. I was struck with just a general question, and I'm not sure this is the time, but appropriations get to be kind of funky if there's a petition signed to basically and your organization for an increase, or could we possibly cap appropriations for a year?
I don't know that we can cap appropriations. We did change the wording of the letter that got sent out to all,
Except for the fire department. They're
Good
capped.
catch. Yes.
They're capped unless they do a petition to increase it.
Right. But what I'm saying is, other than the fire department, can we just put a cap?
I think they're all capped.
then
If they want more money, they've got to go through a process to get signatures.
Right, and I'm saying nix the process for a year.
But only 2 people have done that process last year.
Right, I thought you were asking if we could cap the number of appropriation requests that were being submitted, that were submitted.
So it's all rolled into
Yeah, so my memory is not perfect, unless I think Aging in Hartland maybe did a petition last year to raise their number.
2 years ago.
Yes, so,
Yeah.
so out of the, however many we have, 30, it's like 1 or 2 a year, but actually what's the money? Yeah.
Okay, again, I don't want to drill down on that.
But I mean, there's a lot of organizations here, and I think, I know they each send us a letter every year. Some of them seem like a kind of a canned, regurgitated letter, right? So it's not clear to me that they may all be doing great work. I don't know.
So we revised the letter that we sent out this year to say, please provide us your budget requests and specific information to how you're providing services in the town of Hartland.
Right.
Not, we provided 40 ambulance rides in the Greater Valley. Right, but like, what are you doing to the town of Hartland? Since we're on appropriations, one option to consider, because right now it's an article at town meeting for one block of
Or
appropriations.
we did 30 articles.
Or we do 30 articles, which gives people the opportunity and saves Matt a whole lot of confusion at town meeting, is to break it up individually. So there can be more discussion about individual appropriation requests. It makes the warrant very long.
Before we go down, one other question. Why do we keep account numbers and lines for items that appear dormant?
It's a great question. A similar question I had for our finance administrator. The next revised budget that you will see will have less of those dormant numbers and lines in them.
Okay.
Because it just clutters the page. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to keep it on the chart of accounts.
No.
forever.
Well, more historical data than anything.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So where did you go?
I'm sorry, I'm jumping all around. But
Yeah.
where are you?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know where he was going to go. Yeah.
So the 2 points I want to raise are at the end in the highway department.
Yeah.
And then I do want to talk about health insurance at one point if we, but we can talk about that at the end as well.
Or now. So I popped down to general fund expenses for more details.
Yep.
It looks like health insurance, you're estimating is about $18,000 increase.
So
What fleet liability insurance went up like a significant percentage.
So last year, VLCT gave back their members a refund.
For fleet insurance.
Yes.
And that's,
And I don't know if we're gonna get another refund this year. No,
Okay.
the fund itself had a surplus, so they refunded it to the members.
okay, so the prior year, 2024 was 47. That went down, now it's going back up.
Yes.
Okay.
So since we're talking about health insurance or insurance, one of the things that we've struggled with, as you may be aware, is finding employees, specifically for the highway. That's where we've had openings, in the past 6 months or so. One, we are kind of on par with our neighboring communities in terms of pay. So the option that we have would be to be more attractive, would be to increase our, to make our benefit package more attractive. Right now, we do a 90-10 split, and we're on the MVP Gold plan, and we have that for a couple of years. And so we pay 90%, employees pay 10%. There's really 3 options that I would like the board to consider. So one, we could stay there and continue to do the 90-10 split on the MVP Gold plan. We ran the numbers over the past couple of weeks to talk about 2 other options. One, we could cover 100% of the cost of health insurance. It increases the cost to the town by about $25,000. So we cover 100%. It's just that added benefit to pull somebody from applying from Hartford to applying to Hartland. Alternatively, we move up in plan level there's a platinum plan within the health insurance suite. There's a cost increase to both the town and to the employees, but what it would do is potentially save employees a significant amount of money out of pocket in the event that you do anything beyond the routine doctor's visit. So right now, our maximum amount of pocket for employees for a family plan is over $11,000. If we
What's the deductible? The deductible is the big nut, right? And then you're like at a 20%.
$1,400 and then 80/20 up to 11,200.
Yeah, okay. So the deductible is rather low, and then you're
right, but you
into just 20% of the cost.
right up to $11,000, and that's for really anything outside from standard doctor's visit. We move up. That maximum out of pocket goes down to $3,200, which is a sizable difference. It's an $8,000 difference for people, and this isn't.
It's beneficial if you have a sick employee base. If you have a healthy employee base, they're paying for something they may not use.
Correct. As someone who has a family plan, accidents happen. Again, that's anything outside. break your ankle playing soccer, anything like that. Anything beyond routine preventative care, that single doctor's visit per year. There's a significant cost savings to the individual then. So it's either, yes, there's a little bit more out of their paycheck and a little bit more on the town side. And it's the town side cost of that is slightly more than if we paid 100% of the gold plan healthcare.
Is all your health insurance money in administration, or is it spread through different budgets?
So the rec has their own and the highway has their own. Yes. And the library has their own.
So we don't need to answer tonight, but I think it's worth discussing to make Hartland a more attractive place to work, because we have struggled with, getting people here.
But what do other towns do? What percentage of the towns around us paying?
So other towns, at least one other town is covering 100% of the health insurance. I don't know what plan they have specifically, but they're paying 100%. There are other options, things like a health savings account or health reimbursement account. They become kind of administratively more clunky. I prefer to not go down that path.
Health savings account is the best deal ever. It's tax-free in the way in, it's tax-free in the way out.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim.
Right, but it's the employee's money going into it.
Right. But I mean,
Well,
it basically gives you a 25% discount on what you're paying. Because you don't
I understand that. Right. But it comes out of your budget, out of your household budget.
Right.
We also talked about, since you're talking about equity, how do we handle a married couple getting a family plan versus a single person getting a single person coverage, or a single person or a married person not taking any coverage and taking it, having their coverage come from a significant other?
Right. So right now we don't do anything for the single versus family. What we do is we pay a flat fee per year for those who opt out of the health insurance that we provide.
Okay.
We have not, that number has not increased in the past couple of years, and it certainly should increase because it's not in line with, it's not been kind of keeping up with the cost of health insurance. It was never meant to be, 100% of the cost or even 50% of the cost, but as health insurance has gone up, that number has stayed flat. So it's something that we should consider moving up as well. Right now it's $2,000 per year. And I believe we have 2 employees who,
Down to one.
that we have 1 employee who takes that payment.
That's a pretty good chunk of change. Companies out there in the real world look like 500,000.
Right. It's just as this number has increased, this number has stayed flat. So we can keep it at that. Again, we only have one employee who does that. We're also beneficial in that we have predominantly either single or single with child health insurance plans. There's not many family plans that we're paying for.
Just kind of sticking on health insurance. Just looking at the administration line item, right?
Yep.
So 2023, we budgeted 82, spent 66. 24 budgeted 92, spent 67. So it seems like we're over budgeting. So I think is your budget based on actual people and actual costs, or is it an increase over the prior year's budget?
So we've had a lot of change over the last 4 years in the town. When I started, we had at least 8 family plans. And now we're down to 3, right? I think there's 3.
When I look at this, we've over budgeted since 2022.
We've had enough turnover that it's the insurances, the library went no insurance to have it. Well, that's not on there. So, in the staff side of it, we've lost family plans to single persons or 2 people.
Okay. I guess the question boils down to, are you counting the people, the plans they have, and doing the math to get the bottom line?
Yes.
Because that should be the budget. Right? And the way the budget's been done, it just looks, it's not off by a little, it's off by prior years.
Right, you're right. Yeah.
The difference is pretty substantial.
It is. Yeah, it's 30%.
And if you go back though to prior to kind of, because for a long time, there was a lot of longevity within the town, both in the highway and with the town. And if you go back and you look at budget 20 and actual 20 and budget 21 and actual 21, those numbers are very close together. So I think that that staff turnover that we've been experiencing for the past 5 years does play with those numbers, does skew those numbers to be over
I just want to
budgeted.
make sure you guys with the math, and you're
Yes.
not assuming everybody has a family.
No. So in my spreadsheet, I have
The people.
Martin Dole, 2-person, John Broker Campo, family, Mason Thompson, single. So everybody has their own, whatever they are, and then I multiply it times the 14%.
Yeah.
Fleet and liability insurance seems to almost double.
So yes, the VLCT had money to give back to the members last year. So that's reduced it, that we didn't know was coming.
Okay.
It didn't double, it went up, $4,000. We got that $35,000 number that you're looking at was because of the rebate that we got.
Okay.
Did we under budget retirement in 25?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I made that mistake, yes.
So just moving down, ambulance services, we don't have,
What page are you on?
just moving down that first page on page 1. We don't have budget numbers for the next year for Woodstock and Hartford. Those will come out,
Do they generally increase year to year?
It's a per capita base. So like Windsor's, for example, will increase this coming year because they're picking up the residents on Mill Street. So there'll be I think it's $1.50 per person. So a nominal fee, but yes, it will increase.
Is that contract amended?
No, Windsor will. We're skipping. You're stealing my thunder. Windsor is going to just cover those costs until they send us a new contract in January.
Okay, but
Yes, everything is set.
cemented.
Yep, everything is set.
Through June 30th.
So I mean, most of what you're seeing is just that 4%.
Yeah, so, but you were gonna talk about the things that push that forward.
That 4. So if we jump all the way to the end, actually, and try to move back under the highway budget, there's 2 lines that are pushing the number. So while you find your way there, we increased the paving budget from $260,000 to $300,000. It's still probably not enough.
Oh, yeah, there's another payment.
But $300,000 is at least better than where we were. We have.
So to put it in reference, we did 0.6 of a mile on the Brownsville Road back in 2019. It was $215,000. That same 0.6 now is $290,000. So we're not extravagantly bringing it up. We're trying to keep it with the market.
But the big hit is actually on the very last page. The equipment transfer out, so funds money to the equipment fund. There's a proposal to go from $160,000 a year to $317,000 a year. So that's a significant increase. We're all keenly aware that we've had some equipment issues over the past year or 2. They've been building for a long time, so we are a little flat-footed when it comes to equipment purchases. So now we're trying to catch up. We do have money in the equipment fund currently, which we're using to buy the truck that we approved a few meetings ago. That still leaves some reserves in there. We should be looking forward to things like an excavator, having money, not necessarily money set aside for a grader, because our grader is perfectly operational, but when it needs to be replaced, not having to take out a loan for it. So again, this is starting point budget, not necessarily ending point budget.
But in the highway fund, sorry, I'm having trouble getting there. Gotta get past the library. Highway fund. So this is the summary. So the salary didn't go down much, did it? Shouldn't the salary have gone down before road?
Well, no, his salary would be in there. Yep. In the C3, labor C3.
What is C3?
I don't know. I was here when I started. Any?
I have no idea. It's just classification, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was a question I had for John today.
I will remove the C3.
Well, it may be something statutory.
Maybe
But I guess the question.
Right, I think, Jim, I think the answer to your question is, I think Martin and I need to talk about that because it was my understanding it was pulled out of there. So,
PJ's salary?
no, Rob's.
Rob is out of it.
Right, so Rob is out of it. That was the question, right?
So if you look at buildings and grounds, right under summer maintenance, it goes to 0.
No, buildings and grounds, I'm sorry, buildings and grounds in the general fund went up.
Went up, yes. His
Right.
salary is now there. If you look at last year's versus this year, in the budget, you'll see that his salary went up. But on the highway side, you see buildings and grounds went to 0.
Summer maintenance.
Yes, yep, under summer maintenance, the first line down.
Okay.
And he's now under admin, right?
Yes, he's under buildings and ground under admin. I think it's 3714.
So the two culprits there are paving and equipment.
Paving and equipment.
Yes, sir.
But how much, I mean, I feel like we've paved almost everything we can pave except for the Quechee Road.
So we paved a lot this year, but we didn't really repave much. We put a skim coat on Ferry Road, right? We put a shim coat on the paved section of Chute Road. The other thing that truly got repaved from the town budget was Mount Hunger. I mean, and that was just milled and repaved, a couple inches of asphalt on top of a milled surface. So, we still have Depot. We probably in the next handful of years we'll have Ferry Road to be repaved, truly repaved.
What's the one by North Hartland Tool in North Hartland?
Everett, right? Everett
Started to show.
Right. So we've done, Clay Hill got fully repaved, like rebuilt and repaved. So like things like that we can anticipate with proper maintenance lasting us a long time, but we made it look and ride a lot better, but we didn't really address like underlying causes for a lot of the roads in town. And again, $300,000 is not even a half a mile.
It's not, it's just a total that is, to go in, I mean, I believe people are going to still be sensitive to a 26% increase from the school budget, right?
Right.
The town, I don't know what our last few years are, but I'm guessing we're like 5 or 6% increases.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So I could just, magic.
Yeah.
Here we are looking for 12%. Right. And everybody going like, what are y'all crazy?
Right. We are cognizant of that keenly. However, I just think that we cannot continue to do this like nominal increase every year to cover the cost of inflation while continuing to not necessarily turn a blind eye, but not addressing the root causes that are really starting to have an impact.
And we got to prioritize. It's going to be like, we need 12%. And oh, by the way, we need you to vote on either a $1.5 or $3 million bond. Which is not, those costs are not even included.
They are not. There are some tough decisions to be made for sure.
So we would be in position next year to have our own 26% increase.
Hopefully not.
I mean, I don't know, what's the cost, what was if you did a $3 million bond, what would be the yearly?
It depends on the term. So I have the 10 in front of me. The the 10-year $1.5 million bond was about a $180,000 payment
A year.
Yeah.
About $24.
But percentage wise, would,
Well, I don't know the percentage. It'd be about $24 per $100,000 house.
yeah. I mean, I think, if, you know, if you threw that 180, you said?
Yeah, about.
So if you throw 360 in there, you know?
Yeah.
It's like 20, I'm guessing 26% increase. I mean, what's our increase year over year right now at 11%?
On the highway or the general
The
fund?
whole thing, like,
Yeah, 18 and 18.
so we went up $250,000, that's 12%.
You're looking at 23% if you add the two together.
So, I don't know, I guess I need to think about it.
So I just want to chat about the equipment fund, if I could, for a minute. If you look at the last 3 years, the equipment fund, it says we level funded it at 324, but that's not that's the number that was spent for the equipment fund, but that's not the number that went into the equipment fund.
Right, yeah.
So if you look at the expenses, all the expenses for the last 3 years were over what we budgeted. So the number that we wanted to go into the equipment fund of the 147 or so, we didn't put that money into the equipment fund. This past year, we only put in, it was under $100,000 in the equipment fund. And I think last year was like 120.
What did we budget for that?
147, I think.
Then why do we only put in 100?
So we budgeted 149 and we put 69,000 in because for this equipment section, we budgeted 324,000 for fuel, parts, chains, towing, all that under this. And of that 324,000, 149.
Plus went up and you.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And so that,
But
so the
here's-
equipment fund has taken the hit because of that.
So here's a page we're missing from the spreadsheet, right? It's the equipment purchase plan that goes out 5 or 10
Yep.
years, whatever it is.
Yep.
We ought to be looking at that with what we currently have, what we want to fund each year and what the actual current pricing towards it.
And that's that capital plan that
Well, I mean, but just do that. Should we just do that?
just do the equipment.
Yeah, because you gotta know now, right?
Yeah.
What your liabilities are. And that should be, you know, it's an easy spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The hard part is getting prices, like real world prices for the pieces that you want to buy.
Right. So that's relatively easy. It's the trade-in value on the equipment that we could potentially get.
Yeah, guess.
Yeah.
Guess based on the most recent.
Right. We have trade-in estimates for 2 trucks right now, so we could, that gives us a point of reference at least.
I know you guys are trying to trade in every 5 years.
Correct.
Do you think you get more value?
We get more value if we trade in with a year of warranty left on them.
But would you do better just run them into the ground and buy them every 10 years?
I don't know that we would do better running them into the ground and buying them every 10 years, because you can see what happens this year in particular. If you look at the actual 24s, the reason that the equipment fund transfer was lower is because we overspent on maintenance.
But we broke a lot of stuff.
So the question that we can't answer is, did stuff break because it was old, or did we have a rough year? And maybe it's a combination of the two, but. So.
That's struck me as I looked at some of the maintenance categories, that we did not increase very much. And I think we all know from our own home and personal lives that home maintenance or oil maintenance is increasing exponentially. So I do worry about things. So if I'm listening to you, Martin, and you, John, you have some ideas for medical plans, and you're going to continue to do some research and some thinking on that and bring it back to us. You brought to our attention that the equipment fund has not been properly funded for some time now. So this larger number is a catch-up number.
It's a not necessarily a catch-up number. It's what we need to be allocating to, so we can properly plan for the future.
Okay. I am worried about the tree budget. It's always very small, and we wind up with at the cemetery, and a separate tree budget. And in fact, at the emerald boards in town, do we need more money there?
Yep.
Other thoughts, ideas we would like to leave with Martin?
If we get taxes.
So if we really, I mean, I don't have it's about a $500,000 increase total, this budget. Both from the general fund and from the highway side. It's about a $300,000 increase in highway and about a just over $200,000 increase, $250,000 increase in the general fund expenses. So we're talking about approximately a $500,000 increase in this town budget. But it does put us in a better position for moving forward. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like we're behind.
I don't have to present the town meeting.
Right.
You do.
Right. But I think that to be clear, like we're behind and we're playing catch up, and there's no way to get caught up without spending a little more money.
It's an interesting conversation, but I think it's a conversation that has to be had. But that is the case. Oh, and by the way, Quechee Road wasn't built to handle the traffic originally,
right.
And you're going to pay for it now.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, people need to understand that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was we know that there was an attitude of prior boards of being very conservative. Good for them, but we're dealing with a residue in that. So, okay, if there are no other questions, then let's.
So you guys got homework to do too. Questions for us.
So I have a lot of yellow on here, so.
That's what we want.
What's our homework?
Questions for us on this budget.
No, they reviewed it and came prepared with their questions.
Oh, okay, so we passed it, we're good?
Was there a quota?
All right.
So it's a done deal. Do I need
something? So it's a done deal.
So I think,
no, it's not a done
right.
deal.
So I think there are further refinements to be made within this budget, for sure. For example, I've not been able to meet with the constable to talk about his budget, for example.
Yeah.
So, it's going to go up and down a little bit based on, how certain
I just think
play
you
out.
need a plan B, because 12% increase is what to ask for.
And is any sort of reassessment of properties going to happen, because there's no budget for that?
Well, there's the reappraisal fund.
Yeah, we have a reappraisal fund, which so there's $15,000 in this budget, like last year's budget, to help prop that fund up. So that fund has about 160,000 in it.
Yeah, 169, I believe.
169, thank you.
And the state kicks in.
13,000.
Yeah.
So it's $28,000 a year
Per year
at this point. We have enough to cover the first one, and then we should up that 15,000 after that. So in 5 years we can do it again.
I'm wondering if we need to create like the Friends of the Library, create the Friends of the Selectboard to have a fundraiser for us.
It's a lot of cookies to sell.
Shiny can make whoopie pies.
That's right. That's right.
Just can't sell them on Damon Hall lawn.
That's what I said.
$1,000 a piece.
Right. That's right. So obviously, what I hear is we're looking at a capital plan for equipment purchases, revisiting certain budget items like health insurance, the tree budget, things like that. There will be other items that will again fluctuate as conversations happen, but potentially coming up with an alternative to soften the blow, if you will.
I think you need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're hearing us say we can't increase. I think we're all aware of that, my comment earlier, and I think Jenny picked up on the same thing, that, there's no guarantee that the school budget and the state funding coming to the school isn't going to do anything but the same thing as this year. So there's a dilemma.
Yeah, there is a dilemma for sure.
And, there are people on the margin in this town.
Absolutely.
That, tax increases.
Absolutely. And, I think that you've seen us kind of chasing additional grant dollars more so than we've done in years past.
Yes.
And we'll continue to do so, trying to fill in where we need it without hitting the tax base, but that, 68, 70 miles of roads, a couple hundred culverts, a couple of historic buildings, it all adds up really quickly to do proper maintenance on those things.
So can we sell the North Hartland School and reduce our budget this year?
Well, that's an
There's more
interesting,
revenue.
we will talk about that at the next select board meeting.
The land on Drought Road.
But again, those are significant, but they're not gonna have a huge impact on the budget.
And they're also.
No, but I mean, if you took, we got 104 for the North Hartland School, and took that out, I'd cut you back to 5%.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. So,
Okay, ready to move on?
Yep.
Town manager update?
sure.
Yeah, look at my questions, but
So we got feedback from the lighting consultant that I met with, but I don't know if there was a miscommunication. The feedback came back only for 6 intersection lights, which was different than my takeaway from that conversation. So I reached back out, and once I hear back from them, we'll have more information. You maybe picked up on it a little bit before the meeting started. There was some vandalism recently at the rec center, a broken window, some maybe flagging stakes and shovels were thrown up or through the tent roof. So there's a little bit of damage to the tent roof. So we will try to track down to see if we can find those responsible and
Is that
coordinate.
our tent or is it?
That is our tent. It's actually somewhat expensive tent that stays up all summer. So, and speaking with the school, they've had recent kind of vandalism issues as well. So we'll try to.
So, it's not in the budget. I hate to say it, but even this building, the entrances should have security cameras. You deal with money up here. It's not have some level of protection for the staff is probably not good. Yeah.
We talked about the Windsor ambulance contract, just kind of closing the loop on the Mill Street. There's no charge for the remainder of this year. When the new contract comes in January, it will be reflective of those additional 8 residences.
Did you look at the signage for Mill Street?
I did not look at the signage. I've been told that the signage was that we've ordered additional signs and we've cleared the brush out from the existing signs.
Okay.
To work on that. There has been a request, speaking of the budget, by the Historical Society to have a heat pump installed to help deal with moisture. They have old things that don't do particularly well when it gets humid. So we have an obligation to assist them. So that was the request. Right now they have a dehumidifier that goes, Clyde, correct me if I'm incorrect.
Most of the summer it's running constantly.
Right. So there's a cost for the electricity to that, plus the human capital of having to empty it, if you will. Does it have a pan that it needs emptying?
Yeah, there's no way to put one that drains constantly.
Right. So it's something the request has been made. I told them
Help me understand how a heat pump makes a difference.
So a heat pump can pull the moisture out of the air.
Act like a dehumidifier.
It'll act like a dehumidifier, it drains directly outside.
But doesn't it also act like a heater?
It can actually act as a heater.
Then you would run it in the summertime.
You could run, so having had just a couple of installed in our house, you can, it'll help to like take it'll do like plus or minus 10 degrees. So you can't use it as a heater solely. But in the summertime, there's, ours have a fan mode, have a, essentially a dehumidifier mode. And you can watch the water kind of,
Right, but it's not adding heat to your summer.
it is not adding heat.
It actually would cool during the summer.
Okay.
Thanks. So, we can get a quote from an electrician or an HVAC person, but,
An HVAC person, and then, Efficiency Vermont has, potentially zero interest loans.
right. I would anticipate one for that size of space. We're probably talking $5,000 installed.
We had two at the church in Four Corners. The heat and cool.
Yeah.
Is the building 2 levels or 1 level?
Huh?
Is it 2 levels or 1 level? That building?
That one just runs the basement.
I mean,
Sure, there's a basement.
Well, it'd be basically the basement.
It's just the
We don't have the humidity in the upper level.
Right. My understanding from talking to them, it's just the basement. So I think, that's why I was thinking one would be sufficient, but we can move forward in getting an estimate.
we could put the dehumidifier upstairs.
If it's needed.
60, I think, it's the original furnace. And
Speaking of deferred maintenance in this town,
Maybe we should move them to the North Hartland School and sell that building.
I don't think either of those is a very good option.
Well, 25 years ago, it was our library.
Right. And then before that, the finance office was a library.
And we still haven't found a home for the natural history collection that's in the back room up here.
they own that room.
Yeah.
Who's there?
The Nature Club owns that room. It's in the deed from the Damon family to the town that was their room, deeded to them. And when the Historical Society moved, we gave up the deed to our portion of it.
Anyway, there's an awful lot of, quite an interesting collection in there.
So you've seen Isaac's, maybe you've noticed as you came past, Isaac's Excavating has started work at the rec center. They anticipate being there for a couple of weeks before moving over to Damon Hall to work on the drainage work around here. One of the things that came up in discussion, the 2 retaining walls that are going outside the building on this, right out this door here, they were originally supposed to be cement retaining walls. That's what they're going to be replaced with. We had the option to pick a faux finished stone as opposed to blank concrete. So we did that. So it will look hopefully slightly nicer.
So it's replacing these.
So the wood, those 6x6 wood retaining walls, correct. There has been a request made by the residents on Bird Hill to potentially have their road reclassified to be a town road. Under state statute, there's 2 paths forward. Either the select board can choose to take this request up on your own and initiate the process, or the select board can request that they bring a petition signed by 5% of the town voters, which would then force the board to take action on reclassification. We have so there are 8 houses up there, and we have a petition that's signed by, let's say, 15 folks to date, all residents, but that's not nearly the 5% required to move the issue forward.
5% of the town voters.
5% of the town voters.
Yeah, 150.
150, yeah, thereabouts.
I'm not familiar with the road.
So Bird Hill is just, if you turn,
the tavern.
right, exactly, just across from Stone Common.
Stone blacksmith shop.
That includes the bridge over the brook.
Right. So there are, I don't know which path I've sent this information to the resident who I've been communicating with, but if you choose to not take it up on your own, we could, it would be, the onus would be on them to put then the petition with 5% of the voters.
One of the things that we have encountered before is that the road doesn't meet our road standard.
Correct.
Is that, do we know what this, if this road would meet those standards?
We don't know the underlying construction of the road. So those are things to be considered when either the board takes it up or a petition is submitted with the required number of voters.
Right.
The underlying road construction is and the bridge would be very noteworthy items.
Does that tell you anything?
So what about like on statutes? Are we legally required to adopt this road as a town road if it meets all the conditions?
No.
It is a private road today.
Correct.
Clyde, is Dodge Lane a private road?
That's a private road.
Yeah, so the two of us live on private roads. I mean, it just kind of opens a can of worms, doesn't it?
Well,
If you start taking.
there's a lot of private roads in town.
Well, there are a lot of town roads that should be.
We've taken on a lot of roads historically that were, I suspect, private roads. And we have a lot of dead ends, kind of not quite wide enough roads that we already own. So it does, these are all important considerations.
But you're saying all I need is 150 signatures now? And then you guys apply my road?
No, all you need is 150 signatures to bring it to the select board, by which at that point, the select board could say no, yes. We are not legally required to take on the road.
I don't feel, what's your guidance on this one? Should we take it up and look at it and evaluate it, or?
I think it's a can of worms. I mean, the philosophy of the board is that we don't take up private roads because we have in the past. We just walked, is it Rutherford? Or which right quarter mile up?
Eastman Road.
Eastman, okay. And it didn't meet the criteria of our road standards, so we were able to say no that way. But it took a lot of walkthroughs and everything. So I think unless they come up with
the 5%.
5%.
What do you guys like?
There's no way to find out how much it would cost to make the road more accessible. There's children that live on that road, and I thought that there was some formal rule with the school system that if there was X amount of families or children that lived on the road, that they had to be able to be.
I'm not aware of that. And I have two private roads right near me, Pelham North and the extension of Poor Farm Road. Kids at school. I never heard that piece.
And one of the lawyers sounds.
Yeah.
If they get the signatures, it still has to meet the road requirements.
It would, right.
And then we still can have a chance to say no or yes.
I feel like it is a can of worms because there's so many private roads that if you have to do it for one, you've got to do it for everybody. And then that means another truck, another employee.
Right. More time.
To your point, maybe we could ask yourself and a member of the highway crew just to sort of evaluate it based on our road standard, just to get some rough feedback, and then
Yep, we can do that. And I will let them know that the board will be looking for the petition with 5% of the registered voters.
Who's asking for that?
I believe his name is Doug. Unfortunately, the last name is escaping me.
Okay.
So we've recently done, speaking of staffing and road crew, we've done 2 interviews, both 2 interviews for the highway foreman position and 2 interviews for the open road crew position as well. So we're all done with those, and we anticipate action being taken this week, and hopefully, you know, having a full staff. Hopefully, having a full staff. So, and that is it.
Okay, we have future agenda items, the capital program plan, cemetery committee, and John, you mentioned the North Hartland School.
Yeah, there's been, go ahead.
Is there any correspondence tonight?
No correspondence.
Okay, then let's move into executive session.
There, so I'll make a motion that we enter the executive session under 1 VSA 313A3 to discuss employee evaluations.
I'll second it. Second. All in favor, say aye.
So here's